Hello everybody, welcome, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on when you're listening to this, in that order. My name is Ben Wheeler, and I've got a gentleman here with me today by the name of Adam Price. Adam, say hello to all the lovely people out there.
Hi everybody.
And today we're going to be taking a look at the newest set, as we usually do when a new set of Magic the Gathering comes out.
Oath of the Squid.
Oath of the Squid Watch. And Oath of the Gatewatch is the second set out of two for the Battle for Zendikar, Return to Zendikar Part 2 block, if you will. And I'm just going to say it, Adam.
Do it. Fantastic disappointment.
Yeah, this set's a real jerk. I mean, I've been awfully harsh.
Yeah, so have I been.
A lot of people have.
Yeah.
And the worst part is, a lot of people that are quite fair in their assessments and that are usually pretty optimistic when it comes to evaluating sets, right?
Yeah.
Us included. We love our crap. But we like our crap to have some kind of possibility for applications and not just, well, what we've been shown.
It's really interesting because it's like they're exploring, well, in the previous one they explored a couple of like mechanics with the Void and stuff, which we just absolutely blasted in our videos.
It's because they weren't mechanics.
Because they aren't, yeah, they're keywords. But there was just like not a lot of hot action in the previous set, and this one I think is like, it kind of just moves on to be. I don't want to, like, I really don't want to be the guy that bashes wizards and bashes, like, obviously there's a lot of interesting design space here from a standpoint of, like, thematic elements. Whether or not I think they're cool is a totally different thing. But, I don't know, there's just, like, not a ton going on in this set that I think is going to be interesting for Highlander, but more over than that, I think it's just, it stands out in reference to, like, Eternal Magic in general. Like, if we look at the body of work that Magic has produced, this is a weird set.
We're coming off of Khan's block, which has brought so many tools, especially for Eternal Magic. So it's not as though we're not grateful for what Wizards has done.
Not at all.
Even though that, Treasure Cruise kind of ruined a couple of formats for a while.
Yeah.
But stuff like that aside, like, we still get those cards, right? We can play with that whatever the hell we want. So we get to play that cruise. We get Dig Through Time, Siege Rhino, Swift Spear, Monastery Mentor, like, even going a little back, you get Rabblemaster, Young Pyromancer, like, all these fantastic cards. Tassiger, like, powerful cards. So it's understandable that after they come out with something like that, something that creates a lot of turmoil in Eternal sets, which they're, focusing on, or, well, not focusing on, but at least not ignoring, that we're going to get something like this.
Alright, so, and, like, the other thing, too, is, like, I mean, obviously, like, Magic Origins was a really exciting and interesting set for a lot of reasons. But I think the big thing about this set is the whole colorless mana thing. We should probably talk about that, because it's really just like the biggest sort of thematic element of this entire set is that the world is getting rewritten, so to speak. And, I don't know, that's sort of like the element of it, right?
We've gone from not having any real mechanics in Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah.
I genuinely can't. I'm blanking when I'm trying to think about was there a mechanic in that set?
There probably was, but the fact is we're not. Yeah, it's like we're drawing blanks, and so that's not good, right? Like that's bad.
That doesn't resonate well with a lot of players.
Yeah,
I imagine. Like a lot of sets are defined by the mechanics.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like the mechanics, the planeswalkers, legendary creatures, and
the planeswalkers,
and the overall
this set's
theme.
all about planeswalkers.
Yeah. So, like, if somebody says like Battle for Zendikar or Oath of the Gatewatch, they're going to be thinking about
Squids.
Yeah, but and that's where they've knocked it out of the park, I guess, right? Like there's that hype of the new type of basic land.
Yeah.
Or the new basic land. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's...
so, like, Domain's not getting out of hand. Everybody calm down.
Slow your roll.
Yeah. But they're going to know that, right? They're going to know that this is when Wastes came out.
Yeah.
But that really doesn't do much for us. If I feel with this one, we've come from not having any mechanics.
Yeah.
But having a couple of interesting cards, or like cards trying to do certain things that aren't super pushed. Like Khans had a bunch of cards that we've kind of seen before, right? Or they all had the same kind of effect, or just a keyword attached to a body, and it ended up being quite good. Mm-hmm. But it was a little pushed, right? Obviously, mistakes were made. Yeah. But for Battle for Zendikar, it felt like they didn't have that. Like there weren't these mechanics. Some of them were playing off them, right? Like the Eldrazi that processed cards and whatnot. But that doesn't matter for
ingest and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I just remembered now. Honest to God.
But now here we are at Oath of the Gatewatch, and I've noticed something, is that a lot of these cards, including the mechanics in the set, just feel like they're rehashes, right? Like the first card we're going to talk about is appropriate. Yeah.
Like they're a bunch of random effects slapped on. Like I think Alistair Howie put it best, right? Like this is just a bunch of really random stuff slapped on cards.
Which, flavorfully, kind of alright,
why not?
But it's so. Do you want to just jump into the set right now? Because we're going to get to.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about it. Let's just have it. Yeah, let's have it.
Okay, so first off, we're going Wooburg, and then we're going to cover the colorless cards.
Yeah, multicolor.
Devoid cards are obviously clued in with whatever color you need to cast them. Multicolor, and then lands. Yeah. So starting with white, and I believe the only card from white, because this time around we're being a little picky.
Yeah, we're super picky. Yeah.
So, Call the Gatewatch. 2 and a white, sorcery, search your library for a Planeswalker, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. It's an idyllic tutor for Planeswalkers.
Yeah, this is going to get a lot of Ugins, I think, over the course of its... Because, you really have to, tutor up the best Planeswalker you can get, right? And I think, for the most part, Ugin is, he's an extremely efficient, board stabilizer, right?
You're definitely going to need something, a Planeswalker, rather, that can deal, it just locks them out, right? Because, what do you idyllic tutor for? Either a combo piece, or something like Moat.
And that's its closest comparison, too, right? This isn't an idyllic tutor, basically.
Yeah, if you swapped enchantment with Planeswalker, then you'd have the same card.
But your point is you either get, Moat, a hard lock.
Yeah, you either are finding this hard lock, or you're finding a combo piece.
Yeah.
And... as for Planeswalkers that combo, there isn't really anything. You could find Tezzeret for Time Vault.
Sure.
But, I mean, you're playing Call of the Gatewatch in this deck that's running Time Vault. Seems a little odd.
It's kind of awkward, too, because, maybe that's good and you're running your Jeskai Time Vault deck where you call the Gatewatch main phase, I guess, for your Tezzeret and then minus Tezzeret to get your combo piece. Seems clunky. Probably fine, but seems clunky.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is actually probably the only combo. No, now we think about it, really. Tezzeret's probably the most.
There are some stupid doubling season combos, but I can't imagine. We don't want to touch on that. Yeah. I guess Call of the Gatewatch for something like Gideon can also be locking people down. Yeah, because that's plausible that you'll 5-mana Gideon, right?
Yeah,
Gideon Jura.
Yeah.
But going for something like Call the Gatewatch into Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, whatever.
You're getting one of the best cards of all time, but at the same time, they know it, right? Yeah. You've paid 3 mana to find this card, and they can set up. They can play out the next turn, and it's not as if it's this slam down, win the game immediately card, right? And Highlander Jace can there are a lot of times where if not played properly, Jace will just blow up. Yeah. That goes for most formats that he's legal in, but especially this, what with all the haste creatures, the flexibility and removal, the removal, just in general, the removal that people pack.
So that's sort of why I said that I think this guy gets Ugin a lot, is because Ugin is one of those sort of, provided you have the mana to cast him, Ugin's going to be the guy that really puts you ahead in game, and I feel like this is obviously run in a control deck. That's probably fairly obvious, or it's going to be run in a, Super Friends deck. Nick had a really good point, though, when they did their review of the set, where they're like, Planeswalker's kind of a density deck, and I totally agree with that. So I think this just goes in control, honestly.
Yeah, I'd see it in control. You can maybe make an argument for it in, White-Red Wildfire.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a control deck, though.
Yeah, you're essentially a control deck.
Yeah.
Being able to find Ugin, as you said, Gideon, being able to find, I guess, Elspeth, the 6-mana one, because she does have an ability that when she comes down, she can wrath the board. Mm-hmm. It's a fine card.
It's not going to get points on it, I don't think.
No.
Like, I mean, most tutors are pointed, but then our comparison with Idyllic Tutor, I think, is the most fair. Like, Idyllic Tutor isn't pointed.
This card is way too fair.
Yeah, it's super fair.
Overwhelming Denial, 2 and 2 blue, instant, Surge. So what Surge is that you cast this spell for its Surge cost, an alternate cost. If you or a teammate, not that that'll ever come up, has cast another spell this turn. And Overwhelming Denial says it can't be countered by spell or abilities, and it just counters a spell. So I like this card, but it's boring. I mean, it's incredibly my shit because it's a counter spell that can't be countered, and it benefits you for playing multiple spells in one turn. So cheap, efficient spells. Yeah. But really, this is, it's nice to have as a protection. It's kind of that, no, you can't get my shit.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is that if you are playing your spell that you need to protect, and they go to counter it, and you're like, haha, Overwhelming Denial your counter spell.
Yeah.
I mean, that's... If they do that, or if you do that, then they're like, okay, so your denial can stop my first counter spell, but then your threat's still on the stack, I'll counter it.
What's the old school, Mirrodin version of this card?
Last Word from Darksteel.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that also just has, some of the best flavor text in the game.
Yeah.
So that's another up on that.
I don't think I've ever seen someone play Last Word in Highlander, but this one maybe goes in a deck list you eyebrows up, eyebrows down, eyebrows up, eyebrows down.
It's happened. I mean, you now have Counterflux if you're going for that kind of effect, which is much better.
Yeah,
obviously.
And it also goes in, this goes in an Is It list, right?
Yeah.
Right? Is It wants to, fucking lightning bolt people and then counter their shit, I guess? I don't know.
I mentioned that this card would probably be best in a control shell or maybe a tempo shell that has other cheap cards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It can even be, you don't have to necessarily play it on your turn to protect something. You can go for a setup on their turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're playing something, all you have to do is cast a Brainstorm and then this card, or even play something like a Thought Scour.
Yeah.
Remove their guy.
Yep.
Just a variety of things. And even in a lot of decks, if you are playing this card in something like Blue-Green Sorensen, right? There are times where you're going to pass with 4 mana. It doesn't matter if you have to pay 4 for it. That's all you're saying to yourself is okay, this turn, I'm countering whatever they have.
Yeah.
As long as it's relevant, I'm countering it. And it doesn't matter what or very rarely will it matter what actual mana you have available after you've countered it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where this card is just okay, here you go. Counter that, you can't do anything.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a deceptively flexible card here. It just has to be going in the right deck in order to sort of maximize its effectiveness.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can, potentially see more of your deck with another effect like you mentioned, Brainstorm, or you go for the Dome or some creature with a Bolt or something like that prior to, so it has this clause, but worst case scenario, it's a 4 mana Last Word, right?
Yeah, which, sometimes you'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Dimensional Infiltrator.
Oh, this is dimensional. Ooh.
All these Eldrazi cards, I'm going to get flavor judged the hell out of this.
Yeah.
But from what I understand is that the Eldrazi, they essentially just eat matter, or they eat existence or some crap. And so all the names of the Eldrazi are just some word that references space, time, or reality, or matter, and then another word that some kind of perversion of that, right?
Yeah, looking at this card now, I think that whole devoid thing. In regards to the flavor, I guess that Eldrazi, their whole shtiz is taking life and on the plane and processing it into this super homogenized. That's the whole colorless thing. I think comes from. Yeah, and ingest makes sense in that regard, right? They just scoop up the top card of your...
ingest and devoid are thematic. They just
yeah.
don't fucking do anything.
Yeah. So, boy, this does something, eventually. Yeah. What does this card do? Let's
actually talk about the text on the card, aside from devoid Eldrazi in its name.
Yeah.
So, 1 in a blue for 2/1, flash flying, and then has pay 2 colorless, and folks, you have to pay at least one of that as colorless.
Yeah.
Target opponent exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a land, you may return Dimensional Infiltrator to its owner's hand.
That's kind of neat.
So, 2/1 flyer for 2. There are plenty of decks that, it's pretty much a handful, but there's different ways to to build those decks, right? The skies decks, if you will. The
Yeah.
evasive decks, the beatdown ones, or even the tempo ones that people might want to build. And blue is usually paired in that. It's blue-white or blue-black. You get your shadow creatures, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. So that's fine. It's not, going to be... Like, you're not going to freak out like, I have to have a copy of this, no matter what. Don't go shelling out $20 for one of these guys at the pre-release for your Skies deck the following Monday, because if you don't have them, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, certainly.
But then you tack on Flash, and that's pretty relevant, right? Flash is a great ability. You're getting it for free.
Yeah.
Being able to just, play this guy occasionally as a combat trick if you need to. Being able to... surprise kill one of their planeswalkers, be able to play around Wrath of Gods in a deck that's looking to swarm, essentially. That's great. And then you just have this other ability tacked on.
Where, it protects itself from sorcery.
You can protect itself. Well, you can use it if you have the colorless mana, you can do it multiple times.
Yeah.
So you can just protect it from removal.
Yeah.
You can protect it from...
Potentially.
Potentially. You could block and activate it and maybe just goes back to your hand. And then just replay it EOT.
Also, eat your heart out, Imperial Seal.
Yeah, hits the Mystical Tutors, Imperial Seals. That's another thing, because it's got Flash. They Mystical in the blind. And you just drop this guy, exile it away.
Yeah.
It can... I mean, the Tutors are the big one that's going to muck up, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are pretty far and few in between, but if you ever do Dimensional Infiltrator your opponent's, personal tutor or something like that? Yeah.
Oh, even like a Worldly or a Mystical, right?
That hurts.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, though. In these decks, can this guy be realistically activated?
Well,
that's the thing that I think.
This is why I think this guy's actually real, right?
Okay.
Because for Skies lists... Even if you're running a 2-color list, think of all the lands that you have for splashing. You have the Filter Land, which adds colorless.
Yeah,
you have
Pain Lands.
Pain Lands add colorless.
Yeah.
But most importantly, even in the mono-color decks specifically, you're running Wasteland, you're running Strip Mine.
Sure.
You have Mishra's Factory, Mutavault.
Yeah.
You can play, there's another lane that we're going to talk about. There's a lane that we're going to talk about later, rather, that's... seems to be pretty good for these kind of monocolored aggressive decks, like Tech Edge. You have all these utility
Cavern of Souls.
lands. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're going for more of a Merfolk deck or something.
Seju taps for colorless, right?
Yeah. You have your options. And you're not always looking for multiple activations. If you can get that, fantastic. But just being able to say, I would play this as a 2-mana, 2/1 flash flying that can block a sort of Fire Nice creature.
Yeah,
but also just can occasionally muck over my opponent or protect itself.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Downside, can't pitch it to Force of Will.
I mean... Yeah, that's... This thing fights planeswalkers, too, right? All flash creatures are great against that.
Yeah. We all have faults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't pitch it.
Lord knows I've got my own.
Speaking of another 2/1 with flying.
Bearer of Silence. It's a 1 and a black for a 2/1. Devoid.
Ooh.
A great mechanic. We're not doing that again. Flying, can't block. It's a Vampire Interloper.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's an older card, I just can't think of it at the time.
Skulking Ghost.
Can Skulking Ghost block?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a 2/1.
But it's a 2/1 if it's targeted
targets.
Yeah, I think there might be another 2/1 flyer in black or a 2/2 flyer in black that just can't block that came out before Innistrad. Anyways, so... If you're playing the evasive deck, similar to with the last guy, the Dimensional Perverter, or whatever the hell his name is, if you're playing that kind of deck and you have black, you're probably going to want to play this guy.
Oh, hell yeah.
If you're playing just an evasive black aggro deck, you're probably going to want to play something like this. Because you will be playing Dothy Infiltrators and Dothy Slayers.
2 power and evasion is a big deal.
Yep. Yeah. But this guy has a tacked on ability that when you cast him, not even when he ETBs, when you cast him, you can pay 1 and a colorless, and if you do, target opponent sacrifices a creature.
Yeah,
Which again, since you're playing mono black, or since you're playing black, black blue, that'll have these man lands and pain lands and whatnot, you're probably going to have colorless.
Yeah. And again, these are kind of making a good argument for I mean, for maybe considering running a bit of colorless in your deck anyway, because, I mean, this is the deck where they're really trying to say, like, hey, all your colorless lands are now tapping for diamond mana. I don't know, man. Maybe you do. I mean, this is kind of neat. So, like, this, obviously, that effect is happening regardless of whether or not this guy gets countered or, you know, is useful. You know, he just is going to show up and that's happening. I don't know. That's pretty cool.
He's a pretty straightforward card. Good, neat effect. I love that it's on cast.
Yeah, he's like a bit more mana and a bit more mana restrictive for a much better Gatekeeper. Like, Gatekeeper's a 2/2, but this guy flies, so that's way better.
Yeah, you can't block with him, but, you know, blocking's for people that are trying to not to die. We're trying to kill our opponent.
Yeah.
Also, again, Devoid, very good on... Well, this guy can't block anyways. But Devoid on black creatures, which we'll touch again, and I mentioned it before, black has a really hard time dealing with artifacts. Sword of Feast and Famine is one of the better equipment in the game. Mirren Crusader and Paladin on Vec also see quite a fair amount of play, decent amount of play. So this guy's, you know, he's fair game. Not him, can't block.
No. But that's actually a really good point. I never thought about it. Yeah, the Devoid and black and its in interaction with artifacts, you know, protection from. Yeah.
Kalitas, Traitor of Ghet. Do you want to read over this guy?
Yeah, sure. So he's a 4 mana, so 2 colors, 2 black, 3/4, lifelink, vampire warrior.
Legendary
Vampire warrior. If non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. And then activated ability, so for 2 and 1 black, sacrifice another vampire or zombie, put 2+1/+1 counters on Kalitas.
So that's a lot of text.
Is real good.
All of it relevant.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All of it very appropriately cost. Like a 4 mana 3/4 lifelink, like lifelink on anything that does more than 2 damage.
Yeah.
Creates big swings.
This guy bumps in the whip.
This guy certainly bumps in the whip.
Yeah. He slams hard. Like 3/4 for 4 in black. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I love this card. And the fact that he makes 2/2s. Like, is this, it exiles their creatures? Or exiles it from the bin? So, yeah.
And they don't even die. It's not when it dies,
no, just
exile it from the graveyard. It's that if it would die.
Yeah.
Right? So it beats out Pattern Rector decks.
Totally.
It can fuck with a variety of creatures that have when they die abilities. And getting bodies for that's fantastic. You don't have to do anything.
No.
You just have to, I mean, this guy has to live, but he doesn't die to bolt.
You just live and breathe how black lives and breathes, which is by killing creatures. Like, you know, play out. This is insane.
I like the trend that they have where they've gone from, like, they had Drana in Rise of the Eldrazi.
3 mana, 2/3?
Yeah. Flyer, in the original one, Drana was like 5 mana, I think, or 6 mana or something.
She had some stuff.
And then she came down to 3.
Yeah.
And the original, this guy, was 7 mana, and now he's 4.
Yeah.
So, good job on Wizards making their legends playable.
CMC dropping.
Yeah, and then just, like, his other ability. I mean, it's nice. Like, if that wasn't there, I'd still probably give this guy a whirl.
I mean, 4 mana, 3/4 with lifelink is already pretty hot, and then that second ability is just crazy town. Like, it's super good. And then, could potentially get bigger if you're playing him in the right deck, you know?
Or just, like... There are so many just vampires or zombies, mostly zombies, and stuff like mono black aggro or red black or even white black, right?
Yeah.
That you're just like, I didn't know this thing was a zombie. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's all upside.
Yeah. Also, super cool against Delve, right? Because like they can't fill up their bin as fast with this guy in play. Like it's going to make all their creatures in the bin. So that's kind of a neat
Stops Hellspark Elementals too.
Yeah, nice. Fuck yeah.
Oh, heck yes. Reaver Drone. It's a black 2/1. Devoid. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life unless you control another colorless creature.
2/1 the blocks.
Yeah, it's a 2/1 for 1 that blocks in black. And sometimes this ability won't actually tick away your life total. Because Phyrexian Revoker's a card. But that, even if it said, like, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life.
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
That's fine.
Yeah, this is a Carnophage with 1 less toughness.
Yeah, none of this matters.
None.
Chandra. I don't know why I pronounced her name that way.
Chandra.
Flamecaller. 6 mana.
Yeah.
4 loyalty.
Yeah.
+1.
Ooh.
Put 2 3/1 Red Elemental tokens with
That
haste
slaps.
onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
Exile them at the beginning of the next end step.
Man, that is so rad.
0.
Yeah.
Discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards +1. And then -X. Chandra deals X to each creature. Adam, back in my day, Chandra Nalar, you -X to deal that much damage to 1 creature. Adam, this is each creature.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a Pyroclasm.
Hell.
Or a Wildfire.
Wildfire, Pyroclasm, Fire Spout.
Woo!
This card's got it all, Adam.
Yeah, a +1 to put 6 power on the board is super cool. Drawing cards. This is like, I think Red's kind of needed like this for a while, eh? Like, this isn't, I mean, all the Chandras, like, I mean, forgive me, Red players, but like all the Chandras pretty much are terrible. Yeah, like the one that draws zeros to draw you cards ain't bad.
Yeah, she's alright. But even still, like, she's not the best Planeswalker. It's like, if you're playing red Planeswalkers,
yeah,
like, the best Planeswalker in your deck...
Like Koth, isn't it?
Like, well, I'm talking about, like... I mean, Koth is
a
good red Planeswalker.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't throw him into, like, a Super Friends deck, right?
No.
Like, if you're on
God,
if you're on Super Friends deck and you have red Planeswalkers, you're crossing your fingers for the red Planeswalker that has, like, blue or white in its mana cost, too, right? But now, here we go. 6 mana. It's huge.
Yeah.
Can wipe the board. And, like, look at that. It's a fast clock. Like, worst case scenario... Not even worst case scenario. There are a lot worse scenarios for this card.
Yeah.
But just, like, playing it and plussing it, then you have 5 loyalty and you smash for 6.
Totally.
That's not that bad.
So this card stabilizes, this card draws you cards, and this card, like, ends the game. I don't know. I think this card is sweet. It's probably super playable in Big Red. I think Big Red loves this.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Grixis Control loves this. You know, drawing cards and wrathing the board is always good, and then you can end the game with your 3/1s. And like you said, maybe this goes in your...
yeah, I'm tempted to play this in the Jeskai mid-range, or at least give it a whirl. Like, top of the curve, like, you probably don't want that many 6-drops, or any, really. But being able to slam her down and then crack for 6 to end the game is pretty great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or if you're behind, you just clear the board.
I love it.
Goblin...
This I don't love. but go for it.
Say that again.
I said, this I don't love.
Now, why don't you love Goblin Dark-Dwellers, Adam? It costs 3 and 2 red for a 4/4 menace. It's a goblin. When the Dark-Dwellers enters the battlefield, you can cast an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying it. And then if that card just gets exiled.
Yep. No, I mean, this is just a raw, like, uninspired hate at this point. Prove me wrong with this card, I guess. I don't know.
See, I'm like the worst candidate for this.
Yeah.
Because I get it. It's got a powerful ability. The body is decent.
Sure.
It's got the right creature type.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
It's not like a Venser body, you know?
Yeah.
It could be a 3/3. They could have very well made this a 4/3. It doesn't die to Bolt or Chain Lightning.
That's nice.
Doesn't die to Bolt effects. Has Menace, clocks in.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But other than that, like, and it's a goblin, but, like, I don't think that's ever going to matter, because...
Mark my words, the goblin will not matter on this card.
I mean,
the secondary
this could be your top of the curve for goblins, but since a lot of goblins now run Imperial Recruiter, like, maybe finding Kiki Jiki or Siege Gang is just better.
Yeah.
That said, if you drop this down in a goblins deck, it'll probably have haste, and it's probably going to flash back a burn spell or maybe a Wheel of Fortune.
Sure.
So that's not that bad. Like, this is... if people come to me and they're like, I'm excited to play this card, I'm not surprised. I'm not saying, like, that's a bad idea. To me, it's just like, oh, cool, yeah, that guy has a lot of text. You know?
Yeah. I think this one's where I'm, like, fully prepared and totally happy with being proved wrong. But I think at this point, I, like, look at this card and I go, like, oh, cost, power ratio, so bad.
Yeah, it does cost 5 mana.
Yeah. You know what? I play this card. I think this card's probably fine. It's just, it doesn't excite me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I might want to try him with a Time Walk in your deck, you know?
Ooh.
But, who knows?
Who knows?
Let the future I got nothing. Now, this is a goblin card I get behind.
This is a goblin card.
Yeah, Reckless
for, like, goblin decks.
Bushwhacker. This is Big Daddy Bushwhacker.
Is he whipping people with rats?
Is that the Flex Trek Whip Snake?
Dude, that is.
Sidewinder edition?
He's got like a staff with a bunch of... Yeah, okay. No, I'm on board.
He's got this like cat of nine tails.
If you're playing the goofy goblin deck with the goofy goblin art, this guy's up there for sure.
I mean, you could have serious goblin deck and still want to jam-a-lamb this ding-dong.
Yeah.
Like 3 mana for a 2/1 with haste, that's not good. But surge cost, pay 2, and when he enters the battlefield, if your surge cost was paid, then, well, you get to OG Bushwhacker.
Yeah.
Right? All your creatures get haste and +1/+0. There's not much to say about this guy. He's good in goblins.
Yeah.
He's a good card.
Yeah, you're playing more than one goblin on a turn, so play this guy.
Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. 1 green, 3 loyalty. +1, you get a 0/1 green plant. -2, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. And then -7, you draw X cards and gain X life, where X is the number of lands you control.
Yeah, this card's nuts. This card's so strong.
See, my tune has changed a bit. I still think this card's good. I'm still excited to try out this card.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is what I'm hoping it will be. If it turns out that it's actually just the Stone Nut, fantastic. Yeah. But to me, I'm like casting this on turn 2 and just pumping out O1s. Yeah. And they just block. Like, it adds devotion, it can occasionally add creatures, and then maybe one time I just pump my entire team.
I think this card is really strong in aggro, and like also good in like really random strategies. Like, I would play the ever-living hell out of this in Pox, just because it makes it do to turn. And is a way to end the game. But I think where the trap might be is like, I don't know if this is what you want to be in a Cradlehoof deck. I don't play Cradlehoof, you do. Tell me about the Cradlehoof thing. Is this Cradlehoofable?
Oh, see, this is where the trap might come in, right? Again,
yeah, I think this is a trap in that deck.
Like, it's 3 mana, so you're playing it on turn 2.
Yeah.
It starts at 4. Well, it's going to start at 4 loyalty.
Sure.
So you're paying 3 mana for this 4 loyalty planeswalker and a 0/1.
Yeah.
And if they attack into you or into your planeswalkers, then you just have this end to block, and that's fine. And you just make another one next turn. Mm-hmm. But if they don't, then you're just going to start adding up more and more creatures, which means your Cradle is going to add more mana.
Yeah.
Your Crater Hoof is going to deal more damage, which, there are times where Crater Hoof isn't 100% lethal. And there are just other cards that interact with you having more creatures.
Yeah.
Or you having enough creatures so that you can use another ability to make them all bigger. And then that's where something like the second ability can come in. So when you are feeling comfortable enough to use the second ability, or you just need to go for plan B, which isn't just like combo, like you combo them out on turn 4, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. You can have those combo games, but you can also just have the games where your opponent interacts with you.
Yeah, you can have grind.
And that's where you have to grind. That's when you have to play the cards that draw other cards, tutor for cards. And then something like this, you can have that making O1s every turn for the grind, and that's fine, but eventually you're going to have to do something, right? You're going to have to try and kill them. You're going to have to stop their planeswalkers, which is a huge issue for Cradlehoof, is that if they start amassing enough planeswalkers, you don't have a realistic way of dealing with them.
So here's the thing, though. Is this like the 101st card in that deck? Like, when you slide it in, does it make your deck worse?
I feel like this is a card that I'm for sure going to run. Like, obviously, if it turns out it's complete crap, I'm cutting it.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm for sure going to run this card. But if I end up cutting it in the next year, I won't be super shocked. Yeah.
So I think this card's cool in Pox, and I'll explain why. I have a bit more experience with that deck list than I think most players have. I think being able to put one other permanent... So Pox is a really low CMC deck. Like, you're running maximum 4, but it's generally like a whole bunch of 1, 2, and 3 spells. I think Garruk would be one of the few cards I would consider in a Pox list for a 4-drop, just because he also makes dudes. Being able to make dudes for contamination is nuts. Being able to make dudes so you can sack permanents. Being able to make dudes so you can fix your Pox level or small Pox level or whatever. It just creates a lot of scenarios where you can get a lot of value. So I'm really excited for this card. I think the one challenge is going to be the double green. Because that deck is predominantly black, secondarily green, but I think it's going to be fine. this card's really exciting for that list too, because the -2, like when you do have a bit of a board presence, which you'll eventually have in that deck list, it's a super grindy deck, but you'd be able to -2, and then it just makes the game that much more winnable. And that toughness is huge. Like, being able to make your dudes bigger, have a bigger, rounder ass is a big deal, so... I'm really excited for this card in that deck.
And if you're on white as well, just like a Lingering Soul, adding to your Lingering Soul's clock is huge, right? Yeah, I don't know. I really like this card. I mean, that's cliche, but I really like this card. And
3 green. Like
I hope it's going to be good. You know, I hope it's going to be great. I think it's fine, but
I think it's best in aggro. But I mean, I could be wrong about that. I'm excited for this card.
See, I just feel like in aggro, your creatures, your 3-drop creatures are already so powerful. And if you're looking for planeswalkers, you have Domri or equipment. For me, like the aggro I end up playing is usually not green based. It's either white or red. But
okay, I can see your argument there. Fair enough.
Like, it's worth noting that these plants don't have Defender.
No,
I mean, obviously,
they swing.
Yeah,
they're not elves, which is, I think, a reason why this maybe isn't insane in Cradle of or elves, because they're plants.
Oh man, if she made 1/1 elves.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Here she is again, folks, in another form.
Oath of Nissa. So this is the only oath that I think is actually like really playable.
Yeah.
It's a cycle of legendary enchantments, all coordinating to the specific planeswalker. And this one costs 1 green.
Nice.
It says, when Oath of Nissa's ETBs, you look at the top 3 cards of your library.
Nice.
You can reveal a creature, a land, or a planeswalker.
Oof.
Put it into your hand, and the rest go on the bottom of your library. In any order.
Right.
And then, these oaths they all have this ETB ability.
Sure, yeah.
And then they all have some secondary ability that doesn't actually do anything. But for this one, it's pretty relevant. You may spend mana as though it were the mana of any color to cast Planeswalker spells.
Sure, so it fixes your mana base for Planeswalkers.
There are 2 main decks that I am thinking of when I'm looking at this card.
Sure.
Cradlehoof, obviously.
Okay.
And Enchantress.
Yeah.
So for Cradlehoof, costs 1 green, finds you the 3 most important cards. Like, it can't grab your tutors, but it can grab a threat. Or just a mana dork, right?
And filters.
Yep. And that's the big part.
Yeah.
Is that you are splashing red, and you don't always have the red, or you might be splashing black, and you don't always have the black, or yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And just having this stick on the battlefield, adding to your devotion, and adding just like this ability where it's like, oh hey, don't worry about it. You were adding a bunch of mana to your Cradle or with Nykthos, and you ended up playing this and finding your Xenagos. Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this one's on me.
Yeah.
You found that Domri? I got this. Right? And then with Enchantress, the fact that it can't find an enchantment, which is, a little poo-poo, but finding one of your Enchantresses, hopefully, on top.
Yes.
Finding a land, which, I mean, for those decks, you like to play a bit of a lower land count because a lot of your cards cycle.
Yeah.
But you still want to hit land drops, so that's fine. And then a Planeswalker. A lot of Enchantress lists can run 1, 2, maybe even 3 Planeswalkers. So you're not always hitting that, but it's got the same thing as with Cradlehoof, where if you're adding a bunch of mana with your Serra's Sanctum, and you're not like really paying attention to the mana you're tapping,
doesn't matter,
because you've got Oath.
So in enchantment lists, what are the main planeswalkers you're running? I'm assuming you're running Ugin because he's insane.
Well, no, Ugin would blow up all your shit.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, because it's all colored. Okay, so you can't run Ugin. Never mind, just screw that.
You can run. I mean,
are you running?
Depends on your list. Or? You can run Jace, like JTMS.
Yeah.
You can run 5-mana Gideon.
Sure.
You can run Tameo. Basically, you want the lockdown guys.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
Do you run the Kiora now? The lock Kiora?
I haven't played Enchantress since then.
Okay, fair.
You play the first Kiora. I don't remember what the second Kiora does.
Okay, so the third ability on the first clause of this card is going to be like meh, but creatures and lands.
Yeah, it's a cheap enchantment that can replace itself with like a land that you might need, or one of your other cards that ends up giving you more gas.
Yeah,
and provides an enchantment for all your enchantment cards, like Enchantress's Presence, Serra's Sanctum, yada yada yada. Provides Devotion, which isn't super relevant for those kind of decks.
Yeah, grab your Mesa Enchantress or whatever, or go theme Enchantress.
And then the second ability, I mean, it can do things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It isn't dead.
Yeah. But that's a lot of talk for a pretty straightforward card.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like it.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Vile Redeemer. Another hoof card, but it could possibly see some play in other lists.
Yeah.
It's a little narrow, but 2 and a green for a 3/3 flash devoid. When you cast it, it's not just when it ETBs, it's when you cast. So again, super important. You can pay a colorless. If you do, you get a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion creature for each non-token creature that died under your control this turn.
Nice.
So, 3 mana, 3/3 flash. They can block a Mirran Crusader and trade with it. They can block something with Feast and Famine.
Yeah.
That's already pretty damn good in my books.
Yeah.
Being able to just play them out to kill Planeswalkers when they're not expecting it.
Hell yeah.
That's also pretty good. But then you have this ability, which is like a buffed up Caller of the Claw.
Yeah.
And that's pretty fantastic. Or, well, it's not necessarily buffed up, because Caller you get these bears, right? For this guy, you instead just get a bunch of 1/1s that can also add mana. So it helps you stabilize in that way, as opposed to, like, Caller is more like you can catch people, or the, like, last result Wrath of God, and you Caller and then you kill them when you attack. But that doesn't always happen. But for this guy, it lets you rebuild, which is super important.
I think this card's nuts in Aristocrats. Because, I mean, that card's, that's like a 3-color deck or 4-color deck list, depending on how you build it. So you're going to be able to pay for the colorless symbol on the card, because
like
it's very likely you're running Pain Lands.
Pain Lands, Filter Lands.
Filter Lands, yeah. So I think that's insane. And then that deck list can really abuse the sack clause on this card, too. So overall, I think this card is going to see like quite a bit of play in that deck list. He's also just like a good body for. I mean,
yeah, that's the big thing. Is it just like a 3 mana 3/3 flash that you can play out?
Yeah.
And again, Craterhoof, you have the mana to play this. You have plenty of colorless sources. I think I did a count, and it was about 11 or 12, which isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Like you can also have more if you play more colors. But yeah, I'm a fan. This is another card, kind of like Nissa, where if sometime down the line I have to cut him, well,
it's not going to hurt.
Tough shit, right?
Yeah.
You just have to do that. But for now, I will be including him with most of my builds. Like, he will be, when I type Caller of the Claw into Cockatrice, this guy will follow, assuming I can remember his name. Aeoli, Eternal Pilgrim.
Aeoli. I love this card. I think this card's so great.
Well, this is right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, those are my colors, man.
So
Nick Picard knows well that I'm a black-white personality type. So this is a black-white 2/3, so that's great playing that. With Death Touch, which is insane. Okay, it's a 2-mana 2/3 with Death Touch. Just let that roll. Oh, it's so good.
So it's a cheap Death Toucher that isn't just like a Typhoid Rat's like throwaway.
No,
like
it's
not
a
dying to
throwaway card.
everything it's blocking.
Yeah, it blocks. I mean, obviously it dies to bolt and stuff like that, but you can't live in fear of bolts, you know?
If you're playing white-black with cheap creatures, you're already expecting most of your stuff to die to bolt, right?
Exactly. So the first ability is, so for one, colorless mana, non-diamond mana. I hate that. Sacrifice another creature, you gain life equal to that sacrifice creature's toughness. So that's nice. Gain life. Whoop-de-doo.
Combos and Cephalid life.
How so? Explain.
So do you know what Core or Daru Spiritualist does?
No.
Or Task Force? So they're creatures, relatively cheap creatures, 2 mana, 3 mana, that have these abilities that say whenever... Spiritualist says whenever a cleric gets targeted with a spell or ability, it gets +0/+2.
Oh,
and
sick.
Task Force says whenever it gets targeted, it gets +0/+3. So you would combo those guys with the Encore. That can repeatedly target like Shuko, Lightning Greaves.
Yeah, you just make them enormous.
And their toughness grows huge.
Yeah.
And then here comes Elephant Graveyard.
Yeah. Oh, here comes Elephant Graveyard. Yeah, okay, I get it.
And you just gain infinite life.
Target your dudes infinitely and then just gain a whole bunch of life.
Yeah.
Second ability. One colorless, one white, one black. Colorless, non-specific, non-diamond mana. Sacrifice another creature, exile target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total. So this isn't going to be super relevant all the time, But, occasionally this is going to be being able to remove something that's really difficult to remove, So I think that's kind of sweet. Obviously you have to have 30 life, right? Yeah, I have to have 30 life in our format in order to activate this, but there's enough white and black creatures with lifelink now that I think that's pretty doable.
Yeah.
I
like that it's a permanent rather than just like a creature.
Oh yeah, so much
you can
better.
Get rid of their moat.
Yeah, goodbye Umezawa's Jite.
Oof.
I hated you.
I've always hated you. I like this in like the Soul Sisters deck. I think there's more application. Like my card just might be fine in a fair deck. Too,
it's a 2 mana 2/3 with Death Touch. Play this in decks with
that has another ability that helps you out against burn.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Or even like against storm, you just put your life total above their count.
Yeah.
Reflector Mage. 1 white, blue, 2/3. It's a human wizard.
Yeah.
When the mage enters the battlefield, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. That creature's owner can't cast spells with the same name as that creature until your next turn. So this is the old whoopsie doopsie of take that guy that you got in play, goes back to your hand, and you're going to have to wait your turn.
Oh yeah,
right.
This is some serious red card. Like, excuse me, sir. Penalty mage.
Yeah, the old Mana War, and you can't play it next turn.
Yeah,
right.
No, that's huge. It's a massive tempo card. Like in a deck list that seems to be getting more and more tempo love. That red, white, blue tempo deck.
Yeah. It's got a big enough body. Well, it's not big, but it's got a body that's reasonable enough, right? Can block their cheap dudes.
No one's making fun of this dude's body. No one is.
Nobody's body shaming.
Nobody's body shaming.
That's what I like to see in the community.
Yeah.
It's a wizard, so Riptide Laboratory.
Yeah.
Figure I'd talk about that.
Ooh.
And but other than that, I like this guy.
Repeatable combo.
If it turns out that this guy's not playable again, I already had to go through the heartbreak of realizing that Mana War wasn't playable.
Oh, that's the worst.
That tore me to bits.
Classic wizard to add another toughness on their old card and then give it another ability. And it's how much more can we staple on these old cards, guys?
It's not even a damn jellyfish.
Yeah, well, he's a human wizard. Isn't that even better?
Well, it could be a jellyfish wizard. Like Vidalkins are basically jellyfish.
Keeper of the cloud.
It's all a mystery. You know what I'm jelly about?
Yeah.
Stormchaser Mage.
I fucking hate that Izzet players get another goddamn perfect card. I hate that. I fucking hate it.
Oh, yeah.
Izzet mages are just like, woo!
You know what, Adam? We, blue and red players, have gone long periods of time without having good cards. I mean, sure, last couple of years we've received Goblin Rabble-Masters, Monastery Swiftspear, Young Pyromancer, Snapcaster Mage,
True Name Nemesis,
True Name, Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, Backfaden.
This card's insane.
Yeah,
do we even need to, everyone knows
No, I think this card's the best card in the set.
Easily, hands down, 100%. 180%, this card is the best card in the set.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
Weapons Trainer. Also good.
He's alright.
Yeah.
He's alright.
2 mana for a 3/2.
No one's body shaming this guy either.
No, look at him. He's ripped.
Yeah. Is that a girl?
No. Oh, maybe.
Oh.
Can't tell. That or a dude with a ponytail.
Yeah.
Either way, they're looking like a young Robin, maybe. Man, I'd move my chair closer, but I don't.
Oh, Robin the artist, with a Y?
No, like Robin, what's his name? Dick something or other? Grayson? Dick Grayson?
We're gonna have to let that reference slide all the way over.
We're the worst nerds.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he's a Boros creature with 3 power, a human/soldier creature type.
Great, also ally?
Yeah. You know how much I hate allies. In both real life and magic. Anyways, other creatures you control get +1/+0 as long as you control an equipment.
Yeah.
This deck wants to play equipment anyways.
Yeah.
And boost your whole team.
Yeah. But run a bunch of swords, run Jet, run Skull Clamp.
Yeah. Even Bone Splitter,
Oh, yeah. You run the hell out of Bone
Skull Clamp.
Yeah.
Simple card, Powerful. You'd probably play it without that other line of text. Like, they'll play Wojek Halberders or whatever the hell it's called.
The double strike guy?
No, the guy, he gains first strike if you have Battalion.
That's another thing to mention. This looks really good in a double strike equipment deck, too, because you can, like, play, I don't know, play, like, whatever the one that gives your other dude double strike when it comes into play.
Oh, Silverblade?
Yeah, run Silverblade! Yeah, run Silverblade at this guy. And then, I don't know. There's just, that deck list just keeps on getting cool cards.
Yeah, this card's great.
It's pretty vanilla, but it's good.
Yeah. Eldrazi Mimic, the first of the colorless cards, non-devoid, rather. It's a 2-mana 2/1 that says whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can have Eldrazi Mimic's base power and toughness change to that creature's power and toughness until end of turn.
Okay, we should probably do the colorless talk now, because like this, so me and you looked at this set initially, like I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were both like, oh, this is the worst set of Magic ever. And I think we sort of both came to this conclusion separately, but they're never going to print good artifact creatures. Like, we keep on wishing and hoping, waiting wizards, but they can't do it. They actually can't do it because they're too strong.
They gave us Lodestone Golem, and I was like, oh yeah.
And that was Hangerback Walker?
Well, Hangerback's great.
Yeah.
But here's the messed up thing. Is that, like, I still vividly remember Lodestone coming out and, like, Phyrexian Metamorph.
Oh, God,
being super excited. Those cards came out, like, 4 years ago, like, 5 years ago.
Just live the cream dream. Like, it's not going to happen
Like, this
anymore.
is how hype we get for, like, one card.
Yeah.
We're like, yes. And now we're, like, we have all these guys. We're like, you can understand why we've been tilted over these kind of cards. But I think cards like this are, like, you know, a saving grace, right?
Well, I think so. I was so disappointed. I was like, oh god, they're freaking Eldrazi, and they're not playable off Workshop, and no one can take that away from me. These cards are not playable off Workshop.
That is true. Yep, accurate.
But the fact of the matter is, they're actually pretty good cards in a deck list that is just screaming for other colorless creatures that are decent to put it over the edge.
You have one Workshop. Yeah. But you also have Workshop Junior, right?
Yeah.
You have like Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, Crystal Vein if you're feeling spicy.
And you are.
As usual.
And you're running Soul Ring. You're running
Mana Crypt.
Mana Crypt. You know, Mana Crypt adds 2 diamond mana. So, so the fact of the matter is, I think any card that has a colorless mana cost in it that has a relevant ability and a reasonable power and toughness make this deck so much stronger. I think BattleBots is like slowly going to get insane over the years. We're not going to see a ton of great artifact creature cards, but hell, we'll take these.
Yeah.
You know? Why not?
I mean, I've said it before. Play this guy on turn 1, because getting 2 mana on turn 1 is a lot easier than 3 mana, obviously.
Super easy in that deck.
Play this guy. Next turn you play a Ram Roller or something.
And then you whoopity-doo.
Yeah, you play like a Ironfoot, and you crack in for a heaping pile of damage. And then the next turn you just play Juggernaut or something.
Yeah,
like,
you keep on piling in. Yeah,
no,
he's
like
good.
Like this card. Endbringer!
Secret of the Cloud. Yeah.
6 mana, 5/5. Untaps during each other player's untap step,
awesome.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Taps to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. That's not bad.
Yeah, I love Staff of the
If for some reason you can't attack, which I mean, Snaring Bridge exists in the decks rather that want to play this guy, then that's real.
Untap on their turn, block, tap 1 to deal 1 to either their dude or their face.
Kill their Titan.
Kill their Titan.
If you need to.
Yeah.
Pay a diamond and tap. I hate myself. I'll never say that again.
Yeah.
Mandatory colorless mana. Tap. Target creature can't attack or block this turn.
Okay, so that's huge in those decks.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually an enormous deal. Because this deck burns by fighting face. And it doesn't care about blocking. What it does care about is making sure that no one can block your creatures. So I think that ability is actually pretty nuts. The problem is you have to tap them to do so. But first clause.
Yeah, he untaps all the time. And then just 2 diamond mana. I did it again. 2 diamond mana, tap, draw a card. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is that after looking at this guy, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty alright. He's got all these abilities.
Yeah.
He untaps. He's colorless. He's pretty cool. And then it was like, oh my god, Wildfire does 4 damage. And this guy's got 5 toughness.
Oh, yeah.
And if they have something with 5 toughness,
yeah,
you Wildfire and then you just pig it off the battlefield.
So now, here's the thing. Could you imagine if this was an artifact, though? Next.
Yeah, no, this guy's nuts.
He's good.
Speaking of nuts, Kozilek, the Great Distortion. 8 and 2 mandatory colorless mana. Legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast Kozilek, nothing happens, because I'll be damned if you're casting this guy.
Yes.
But if you do, if you have fewer than 7 cards in your hand, you draw cards until you have 7.
You will have fewer than 7 cards in your hand, I can assure you.
Yeah. And then it has Menace.
Yeah.
Good ability. We've seen a lot of Menace, actually.
Yeah.
It's a 12/12. And then, here's the important part. Discard a card with CMC X.
Wait a
Counter
second.
a spell with CMC X.
Okay, that's great. We'll get to that. But Menace is a good ability.
Yeah, Menace is a great ability.
Like, it's... Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got that.
It's evasion. It's evasion that they can put on big, dumb creatures that isn't just trample.
Because they're a real nuisance, you know?
So...
All right, last clause.
When you oath this guy into play...
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
when you reanimate him, because he doesn't shuffle back in...
No.
Then he just
12,
protects
12.
himself. He's a 12/12 with evasion that you can protect.
Yeah.
Or you can protect other guys.
Yeah, the fact that you can protect him is sweet. And Reanimator, it's often the case that this is going to be a card that you can obviously entomb out, right? And you'll have a ton of cards in your hand. You got this. I mean, they're not removing this guy. They're not removing this guy in a million years.
Like, the curve for Reanimator is like 1s, 2s, some 3s, and then like maybe a couple of 4s.
Yeah.
But then 0, like no 5s. Like, maybe a 6, because there's, like, a good 6.
Yeah.
And then just, like, a bunch of 8, bunch of 7, or whatever. Like, depending on your suite of threats.
Yeah.
But this guy comes down, protects himself from all the removal in the world, can stop Wrath of Gods, can help you win counter wars.
Yeah,
and just kills in 2
no one's
turns.
paying 12 to kill this guy.
To maybe kill him.
Yeah, to maybe
If they
kill
pay
him.
12, then you just crack in and kill them, because
Yeah.
you just discarded your compulsive research.
Yeah.
You discarded your backup reanimation spell, because you have necromancy.
Yeah, this guy slaps.
Yeah, he's so good. This guy makes me want to play Reanimator.
I'm going to play him in Reanimator.
Folks, look forward to Adam killing you with Kozilek the Great Distortion at a Yellow Jacket Comics, or maybe he's going abroad. You know?
Yeah, maybe I'll tour the world.
Yeah. Matter Reshaper, 2 and a diamond for a 3/2.
Diamond represents colorless mana.
Yeah, I don't know why it says that. When the Matter Reshaper dies, reveal the top card of your deck. You may put that card onto the battlefield if it's a permanent with CMC 3 or less. Otherwise, you draw it. So, worst case scenario, it's a 3 mana 3/2 that when he dies, you draw a card.
I mean, worst case scenario, it's a 3 mana 3/2 that they path.
Yeah, or that flips a Hangerback Walker into play. But this guy has got this Kitchen Finks thing going on, you know? He's got this, like... He's got 3 power. He's cheap. He's colorless.
Oh yeah.
He replaces himself occasionally.
It's like a really backwards cascade, kind of, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like if you're playing this guy, chances are your deck has a bunch of permanents.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 or less thing, forget about it. It's happening.
Yeah.
This is happening.
I like this card. There's not much to say about him because you should know what deck he goes into.
He goes into
He's
the colorless
powerful.
deck.
Yeah, the colorless deck. Reality Smasher.
I love this card.
5 mana. Oh, that's some good art. 5 mana. Holy shit, it has haste.
Yeah, dude.
I'm pretty sure I knew that, but for some reason, seeing it like in English in front of me. Wow.
Okay, this is a 5 mana 5/5 with trample and haste. They would never in a million years print this on an artifact. They would never in a million years print this on an artifact.
I mean,
they couldn't get away. It would smash formats. It would smash the reality of formats.
It would literally make vintage players rip up their decks.
Yeah.
No,
yes. This card's cool. When he becomes
a target of a spell or an opponent controls, counter that spell unless they discard a card.
It's gravy!
So usually they're just going to be discarding a card. But even then, like, it's got haste, so you play it, crack in for 5, and then they're like, oh, I've got to deal with this. So they try to remove it, and you're like, discard a card, please. That's pretty damn good.
Just remind them that they just got smashed.
Yeah, so like, we've given this set a lot of crap, right? But these big dumb idiots are surprisingly good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They've done, for all the flack we've given Wizards, good job.
Just make sure to note that you're paying diamond mana with your Ancient Tomb when you cast these. I'm going to reserve 1 diamond mana to pay for the diamond mana cost of my diamond mana card.
Alright, 4 and a diamond. Thought Not Seer.
Yeah.
3 and a diamond.
Yeah.
Diamond represents colorless mana. It's a 4/4, so a 4-mana 4/4.
That's great.
When he enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You pick a non-land card and they exile it.
Yeah.
So that's great. Oh, so when he dies or leaves play, it goes back to the hand, right? Adam, you are wrong. When he leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone for good.
Yeah, so you just rip a card out of their hand, and then when he dies, they get a random card back. Which, like, you should probably take their best card, and then maybe if they manage to deal with it, they draw a land.
Yeah, draw a land.
Or they just draw a random card. It's this card's good.
Just being able to, it's hand attack in colorless.
Yeah,
that feels weird to say.
It's interaction, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this against Storm. I mean, Thought-Knot Seer feels pretty good. I mean, that's just taking their tutor, right? Yeah. I don't know. This card seems really strong.
Powerful magic. Haven't said that yet today. Okay, I'm gonna let you tackle this guy because I hate this card.
Okay, that's fair. No, that's fair. I think this card's more playable than people give it credit for. So again, I'm the guy who brewed BattleBots. I'm that person, and I think that this card is super playable in that deck list because it honestly doesn't need any color land. Like, it doesn't need them. It just needs them to produce mana.
You don't even want blue?
I mean, so here's the thing. Blue gives you access to Mana Drain, Tinker, Serendib, Efreet, and I'm blanking, honestly. Like, there's cards. You should be running blue, potentially. But the point is, like, maybe consider not running blue anymore. Maybe you just run all waste in your deck, as awful as that sounds.
I mean, aside from your utility land.
Yeah. Aside from Tolarian Academy, that's never getting cut. Mishra's Workshop's never getting cut.
Yeah,
Factory's never getting cut. Cavern of Souls is never getting cut. But so the point is, this card makes you think a little bit more about your mana base. It's a 5-mana 4/4 that has Trample. And it also gets +1/+1 for each land you control named Waste. So, if you have 5 wastes in play, this is huge. This is an enormous dude.
So, okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, but best case scenario, you have 2, right? This is a 6/6.
Like, realistic.
Realistically speaking,
5 mana 6/6 with Trample that can only grow bigger.
Yeah, I have no problems with that.
Yeah, I guess I can see this happening. For me, I'm always just like thinking like, oh, I'm colorless, so I get free reign on what color I want to try. But at the same time, if you get a benefit from casting this guy, or like even just like having a light splash, and you still just run a bunch of wastes, then like maybe things will be all right after all, you know?
I think this guy is something to be aware of if you're building that deck list. It might sway you to build the deck list with more wastes instead of islands. I think you probably just run a heap of both, to be honest. But I like this card. I think it's super playable in that deck.
On to the lands. We have the black-green duel, Hissing Quagmire. Mm-hmm. You pay 3, it becomes a 2/2 Death Touch. Yeah, we all saw this coming, right?
Yeah, this card is fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's this is the most like fine card.
Yeah,
and I'm not just at a loss for words.
No,
it's more just like that's the most accurate thing I can think of. It's like, hey, are you playing black green? Yeah.
Nice.
Are you playing the manland? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Cool. How good is it? Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. Yep.
Mirror Pool. Enters the battlefield tapped. You add a diamond mana when you tap it. You can pay 2 and a diamond mana.
Oh, yeah.
Sacrifice Mirror Pool. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You can choose new targets. 4 and a diamond, sacrifice it. Tap sacrifice, obviously. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature you control. So this is a shitload of utility.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still not sure if this card is actually nuts or just, like, maybe alright.
The answer is okay. We got to address enters the battlefield tap. That's never great.
No.
There's very few ETB tapped lands that are good.
I mean, the good ones usually turn into 4/4 flying vigilance creatures, right?
Yeah, exactly. However, those are 2 extremely strong abilities: copying your creatures and copying your spells.
Yeah, it's on a land. Like, you're not really... The cost is that you're having an enter the battlefield tapped.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to sacrifice it, but you're swapping in this thing that's been adding mana for you.
Yep.
To just copy your your spell. And, like, if you're in a control deck later on...
Oh, yeah.
If you can afford to have this come into play tapped and not add a colored mana, which, chances are you can.
You've got a Mind Stone. You can cast colorless lands, you can activate colorless lands.
Yeah, you play talismans or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe it helps you win a counter war.
Sure.
Maybe it helps you draw 6 cards later in the game.
Yeah.
Or like dig through time twice. Or maybe you like 1 Consecrated Sphinx. Well, how about 2?
How about 2?
I like this card. Oh, and Sun Titan, you can get it back.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get your Sun Titan back.
Oh,
wow!
Yeah, no, I think I want to try this card. I want to jam this.
Those are 2 very strong abilities that maybe offset the fact that it comes into play tapped.
See Gate Wreckage.
Oh yeah!
So it only has diamond mana, but you can pay 2 and a diamond to tap and draw a card, and you activate this ability only if you have no cards in hand. But you're shaking your head, but not in a I don't want this card, but more in you're in a daze, Adam.
Yeah, no, this card is so good.
People want to run this in red deck wins, from what I've been told. People want to try this in like mono green Stompy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, jamming this in battle bots is pretty sick.
This jams in every mono colored deck list.
Yeah, I mean it's close. Like maybe not.
Tell
mono
me something
blue.
that this isn't played in mono. Like
mono blue.
Mono blue doesn't need this, but it doesn't hurt to have it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you're not going to have an empty hand. Maybe that's the point.
Yeah, I guess that's
mono red 100%, mono black 100%, mono brown 100%, mono green. I mean, there's a bunch of green.
Like if you're on Stompy,
cards,
like I could even see myself playing this in Crater Huff. Honestly,
yeah.
It doesn't come into play tapped too.
That's huge.
Like hallelujah, because for where Mirror Pool is like, okay, maybe we can get around that because the abilities are so powerful, and because the decks that you want that effect and that you have the mana for that effect, that's fine, right? You have this land come into play tapped, whatever. You're Wrath of Godding next turn.
You're playing Scrylands, play that card.
But for this guy, you're in the fast deck, right?
Yeah.
You're riding in that fast lane, and then you're restocking.
I thought this card was nuts from the moment I saw it, and it will remain to be nuts. I'm really looking forward to playing this in my BattleBots list again. You know, like why not? It's your hand's empty because you played all your spells on turn 2.
This is a pick me up Buttercup, right? This is an immediate snap keep into that hand.
Yeah.
And this is something that makes me say like, okay, maybe playing wastes isn't that bad because you don't get the like card draw that blue might give you or the tutors, but when you have cards like this to fall back on, or like Mirror Pool that are just so strong by themselves, who needs them?
Yeah. Word. No, Gate Wreckage. Love it.
Yeah. And that's been our review. Overall, favorite card, Adam? What would you say?
Favorite card in the set is the 4-mana black 3/4 with lifelink and a whole bunch of other shit on it.
Kalitas.
Yeah, that card's insane.
That guy's huge.
Yeah. I've had so many mixed feelings about the set because overall I think that it's a total lore flop and it's a total flop in terms of its thematic elements. But I think that there's some decent cards I've sort of revisited, especially on the colorless front. And then there are a couple very strong cards.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the whole like the Eldrazi just don't give a shit because they can't. Right?
Yeah.
Like what they've gone into like creating the identity for the Eldrazi's. It's just for me like I don't care. I don't care if the Eldrazi win. I don't care if the allies win.
No,
right?
I don't.
It's not. I mean, yeah. There's just none of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not like, oh my god, I hope Nissa's okay. Like, that just is. I'm not rooting for anybody.
He didn't care if Nissa's okay.
Don't tell her I said that. Please don't tell her I said that.
I'm so looking forward to playing you.
I'm looking forward to playing her Stormchaser Mage. I mean, that's boring, but that card is nuts. 2 mana, 1/3 flying prowess haste.
That card is a mistake. Mark my words. Is it, players? You just get more of what you love, don't you?
Oh, we're rich, baby.
I'm so mad. I'm so goddamn mad about that card. We talked about this too when we saw it when we were just like jaw dropped at how stupid that card was, and you were like, "This card doesn't need haste." Yeah. And you're like, "Why did you do that, Wizards?" You're like actually legitimately baffled. Like, and you've like even looked into set design. You considered it as a career path, and you're like, "This card doesn't need haste."
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very, very pushed.
Yeah,
right.
Super.
Like, I would play. I mean, it feels very pushed. Like, I would play that card without haste. Right? It's a prowess creature with flying at a reasonable cost. Yeah. It protects itself from bolt if you have one spell, which is big. But why does it have haste? I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm going to jam this guy, but
yeah,
dang.
It seems like a design.
Like I'm going to play that guy in mono red.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm already playing Recall, right?
Yeah, why
Might
not?
as well. But anyways, that has been Benjamin Wheeler and Adam Price for our Oath of the Gatewatch set review. Tune in next time when Adam and I will be discussing hidden gems from Urza's block.
Yeah, no, we just finished Urza's block.
Well, that'll be uploaded.
I did it in real life faux pas.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys, and listening to us hamming up over dumb magic cards. Appreciate it.
See you later.